My name is Brandon Wainright. I'll be reading my monologue today with the support of our state senator, the Colorado State Senator, Mr. Pete Lee. At birth, I was named Brandon Marlowe Wainright. That is the name my mother used, as well as the teachers at school. On the street, my name is Dub, D to the UB, or you can call me Young Black King. But on a serious note, let me tell you that 90% of the people from my hood are considered failures. And I'm supposed to act like I can't be part of the 10% because of the way you think of me, and because my ways are often too ignorant.
Trying to live, I lost my life.
I have a young mother, young father, brothers and sisters at home. Barely food in the fridge or water, depending on if it was on. I'm surrounded by old heads and youngins walking around with handguns, and they won't hesitate to let me know what they think of my honor roll ass if I can't fight.
Trying to live, I lost my life.
School is kind of a sanctuary, if you will, or a safe haven. It's like, look, I can be myself, I can be a nerd, I can be a thespian, I can do sports, I can do whatever I want while I'm in school because I'm living my life. This was how I want to live. This is how I want to live.
Trying to live, I lost my life.
But outside of school, I put on a whole other mask. I fight, and I fight, and I fight. I'm Dub, and me and my gang, we do what we do. Big time shoplifting, small time drug dealing. Like I said, in my hood, 90% of the people are considered failures, and they are the people whose approval I need in order to survive. And you might not like the guys I hang out with, but they are the only ones who have my back, and I have their back. I do. This is not the life I want to live, but this is the life I have to live.
Trying to live, I lost my life.
Things become harder when I turned 16. I stood up for my brother against my father, and for that, I am out of the house. I'm no longer his mouth to feed. From 16 on, there isn't anyone giving me a roof, clothes, or food. I have to go and do that with the help of my gang, and that's why I said I had to live. I had to find a way. And then I was losing my life because at a young age, trying to be an adult, you know, you can't really have a life. You gotta kind of give that up.
Trying to live, I lost my life.
But still I stay a star student, honor roll, state champ athlete, blah, blah, blah. Against all odds, I still kept my cards. I kept my cards. And by my senior year, it's clear I'm going to be part of that 10% that makes it. That 10% that makes it. Women, money, cars. I'm headed to the NFL. I have full ride sports scholarships. I'm choosing the offers. I'm even going to be prom king.
Trying to live, I lost my life.
So with all this headed my way, did anyone ask me, while on January 12th of my senior year, I shoplifted 6 stores. Let's just say I robbed 6 stores in one night. 6 in one night. Instead of working hard to prove what a terrible criminal I was, did anyone consider I might also have been a young man having a hard time and needing help? Did anyone sit in a circle with me and say, Brandon Wainright, what were you thinking? 6 stores in one night? You must have known you would get caught. For a few $1,000s, you threw away a $100,000 full ride scholarship to college. You were going to be part of that 10%. Why, Brandon?
Trying to live, I lost my life.
No, they didn't ask. They charged me with robbery. They kicked me out of school. They made an example out of me. Nobody acknowledged that I had to be the best at being Brandon Wainright, star athlete and star student to make the 10% and thrive, and that I had to be the best at being Dub, to have shelter, food, and survive.
Trying to live, I lost my life.
They didn't acknowledge that I was locked in a terrible split that put surviving and thriving at war with each other. They acted like Brandon, the high school vice president of Future Business Leaders of America, was a lie, and that I had finally shown my true colors, black. As if I was by nature essentially a criminal. Nobody in the justice system or the school system cared enough to even ask why I did what I did. Nobody.
Hey, Brandon Marlowe Wainright, Dub, young man, young black king, why did you risk all you had worked for by robbing 6 stores in one night?
It's a long story. A long story. At the moment I made the decision, I was exhausted by the fight, and I didn't even care. You wanna know why I didn't care? Because that night I was hurting, and I didn't feel love. You know why I didn't feel love? Because I wasn't getting it from the parents who I thought had made me their son. They didn't come to my games. They didn't care I was on the honor roll, that I was going to college, that I had a scholarship. And why wasn't I getting that love? Because I was living on my own at 16, away from the only home I had known. And because my parents were young, they hadn't grown up with much love. And they were busy fighting poverty, fighting racism, fighting their own ignorance, fighting to survive themselves, and tired of fighting with me and struggling with how to raise a young black son in a place where the streets have so much power and a parent has so little. Or you can just knock it down to the fact that where I was raised, you're either born with it or you're born without it, no matter what you apply that to. And I thought I'd rather be caught with it than without it. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. I needed money to live, for food, shelter, and clothes on my back, and maybe to graduate looking nice in the prom king suit. I was gonna buy that with some of that cash. Yeah, it's a long story that you slam into one righteous move of your gavel, and you would have to actually care about me to understand.
As Cornel West says about true justice, justice is what love looks like in public.
Instead of any help and support dealing with the challenges I faced, I got a lifelong label as a criminal and more obstacles to overcome. I was already tired, and the fight just got harder.
My name is Cierra Brock. I'm very honored to be here. I feel like if I didn't step foot in the door of Motus Theater, I probably wouldn't even found myself more put together. On that note, I'm a little nervous. So here I go. It was just us, my mom, my sister, and I, on a trip up to Cripple Creek Casino early in March for my 21st birthday. It had been a hard spring. We were all living out of a U-Haul truck, so my mom, with not much left to lose, and wanted to do something special for my birthday, drove us all up there in the U-Haul truck, where we could at least spend one night in a real bed and take a hot shower. And I could try my luck for the first time gambling with the $40 she scraped up for my birthday. I had never gambled before, but I needed luck and a win. I was having trouble finding a job, and I had a big ticket on me for a broken taillight and driving without insurance. I didn't have the money for the ticket or the taillight, let alone the insurance, but we needed the car. It's hard to keep a job without reliable transportation, believe it or not. And without a job, there was no way for my family to get back into an apartment. So I was praying for some birthday luck. I first tried a $5 slot machine and lost 10. I was like, I'm going to try a dollar machine. Maybe I'd have a better chance of winning on something like the dollar machine. I came up with this rule to only spend $5 on each machine and then press cash and move on. I was losing money quickly, so I switched to the quarter machines, then the nickel machines. Losing mostly as I went to hoping that the next machine would be a little bit luckier. And indeed, I thought it was. I pressed cash, and I was like, oh, well, damn, I just won $62. I didn't even know how the whole winning thing goes. I was trying to read the instructions on the little game box that they have, but I thought, hey, I got $62. I think I did pretty good. So I found a place that you could put the card in and cash out. Then I was going to find my mom and tell her I won. These casino officers came up to me and told me the machine that I was playing on had already had someone else's money on it, and they asked for my ID. I tried to explain to them there wasn't anybody at the machine, that there was no reserves on it, and that was just the next machine I was playing in line. I explained also that was my first time being there. I didn't know how the casino rules go, but they wrote me a ticket for an $800 fine and assigned me a court date near Cripple Creek. I live in El Paso. I later found out that there's a little-known statute in Colorado for fraud, take money not won. That allows all casinos to prosecute gamblers who uses someone else's slot credits, even small amounts like 75 cents, that are abandoned on machines. And I didn't know any of that. By the time my court case was coming up in May, I wasn't sure of the actual court date either. You see, my family was still homeless and living out of a storage unit. Shh, don't tell nobody. But my mom couldn't pay for the storage unit either, so they ended up putting a lock on our unit, and I couldn't get my ticket out. I did know that it was on a Monday, and I thought it was the first Monday, so I waited at the bus stop for a bus going up to the courthouse near the casino, which is called the Rambling Express Gambling Bus. With $200 in my pocket, had $30 for the bus, and the rest to put towards the $800 ticket, hoping to get some of it behind me. That's when they told me that the bus stop don't go up to Cripple Creek on Mondays. And I'm like, well, damn, how am I gonna get up there now? My mom no longer had a vehicle, and no one I called could drive me the hour and a half and wait all day to take me back home. I was freaking out because I already had a bench warrant. I didn't show up for court for the broken taillights and no insurance. So I'm calling the courthouse, and I'm trying to explain, hey, I tried to get there through the gambling bus, but it doesn't run. Is there any way that I can reset my court date? Ended up that my court date was the following Monday, still on track, but like I said, there was no buses going up on Mondays. And there actually was a way I can get a form and make a deal with the court if I mailed it. But I didn't have an address, I was homeless, staying with some friends, and it would take 2 weeks to mail. So I never made it to court. I was finally arrested in October. The timing was so terrible because I had just managed to get a job after looking left and right and left and right for months. But then by then it was too late. They put me in handcuffs and they put me in a police car for the first time. I was crying. They took me to jail far away from my family, up near a casino for almost 2 months. I didn't understand how it all worked. I messed up the whole bond thing. I just knew that no one was getting me out. And I knew that while I was sitting in jail, I would lose my job. I knew that my 8-year-old sister would be in a bad position missing me. My mom, she was also locked up in the Springs, El Paso County. So my little sister had been staying with me and my friends. And my friends lived far from her school. So every morning, I managed to walk an hour to make sure she got to school on time every morning. My other sister, she was pregnant, and there wasn't no food, so she wasn't able to eat. It was just all a mess. and I was sitting in jail. I was ignorant about the whole situation, but I guess ignorance doesn't count in court. I didn't understand the gambling system, how it worked. I didn't understand the game. And I didn't understand the criminal justice system or the whole bond thing. They say I stole $62, but I didn't know I was stealing from anybody. I didn't even know I was stealing. I thought I had won. But even if ignorance is not innocence, what about what was stolen from me? All the benefits they took from my failure. I had to pay $800 ticket, $75 donation, $50 jail fees, $30 court fees, you name it. I lost my job. I lost part of my sanity sitting in that jail, worrying about my little sister and family. And now I have a record that steals my presumption of innocence. They even put that shit about me stealing in the casino in the newspaper for somebody's entertainment. And when they finally let me out almost 2 months later from something smaller than a cell, maybe a trap, they said, oh, and by the way, you have a week to finish paying off any extra fees. And we hope you could steal a few hours of your day to finish your community service. But of course, then I'd have to pay out of pocket for the $30 gambling bus ride to Cripple Creek to sign up for that community service because I don't have a car.
My name is Brian Lynch, and I'm honored to have Captain Corey Pass support me in this story.
So who's worked and worked and worked, and when you get out of work, you're just drained? I mean, just drained. Can you give me a show of hands? Then you know what it's like to not even want to look at whatever you've been working on for one more second. Not one more second. For me, that was refrigerators, stoves, and compressors, because I worked at Cierra's at the package pickup. Well, that night, when I finally got off work, I was headed to the parking lot, and the phone rang. How many of you have a friend that doesn't have a car? I mean, just period. Not their car is in the shop, but they have to manage work, life, getting kids to school, and no car. Again, raise your hands. And how annoying is it when they ask you for a ride the night that you're drained and you don't feel like doing anything but going to bed? Skip the refrigerator, the stove, the cooking, the eating. Do not pass go. Just go to bed. And the real question is, would you do it? Would you take your boy home? Would you? Yeah, I would say most of you would. Well, spoiler alert, I answered the call. So here I am driving one of my boys home, and this shouldn't be too bad because he literally lives maybe 10 minutes away from his job, not even that. I'm driving dog-tired, and he's dog-tired too, because that's the jobs we have. And 2 or more, 3 minutes down the road, he's asleep, and a police car pulls behind me. Now, how many of you have experienced that moment when it's not until a car pulls out behind you, or a police car pulls out behind you, that you realize the speed limit has just dropped? I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but I'm going somewhere with this. So again, thank you for showing us your hands. So that is what happened to me. I looked at the speedometer. I was going 42 on a road that just dropped from 40 to 30 miles per hour. So what would you be thinking at that point? Raise a hand if you'd be thinking, oh, darn it, I hope I just get off with a warning. I hope I don't actually get a ticket. And now raise 2 hands if you're thinking, just give me a ticket, don't take me to jail, and please, may I end up alive at the end of this night. Because when the police car pulls out, I could barely breathe. My hands were clenching the steering wheel. Images of my cousin being kicked over and over by 2 officers were flashing in rhythm with those swirling red lights. And with the sound of the sirens, I was brought back to my last experience with the police, where I went to jail for a DWI on New Year's Eve. even though I wasn't even driving. I was parked. I tried to keep breathing as I rolled down the window, and the officer asked, "Are you aware that you were driving 42 and a 30? "Yes, sir." They took my license and eventually came back, but now there were 2 more police cars pulling up. "Smells like marijuana in your car. Would you step out so we can do a search?" How many of you at that moment would have said, "No, I'm exercising my Fourth Amendment rights. You cannot search my car"? And how many of you know you don't have these rights because the statistics are bad? 2 black men in a car, 6 white police officers, Richardson, Texas. It's not really a question. Some white officer says he smells marijuana. There is probable cause. And probably they're going to search your car the easy way or the hard way. And the hard way is not good. It is not good. I step out. They found no bag, but they scraped up enough in the back seat, the trunk, and the floor to gather a gram of weed. The smallest amount a man can buy, $15 worth. They put me and my boy back to back in handcuffs. It was overkill for a gram, overkill. And my homeboy was just terrified at that point because he knew he had a warrant. He knew he was going to jail. And I knew I would be the one who was going to have to figure out how to get the money to bail him out. And as they put us in handcuffs, one of the officers approached, shooting a video of us getting arrested on his phone. He was laughing, saying something like, "Look, I got the bad guys." And then he started taking pictures of us like we were some trophy animal that he had caught. My homeboy starts cussing, "What the fuck? This isn't right. Why are you taking pictures of us? For what? What are you doing?" And the cop just put the phone away and walked off. It could have been a warning. "Remember, young man, the speed limit drops by Montgomery Street." It could have just been a ticket. "I'm sorry I have to give you a ticket." It's easy to miss those signs. But no, it becomes a full-on search to find something criminal they can get me on. When you get stopped for a small speeding ticket, do they search your car? Do they humiliate you, mock you, take personal photos and videos of your struggle for home entertainment? Is it fair that one person has the expectation of a slap on the wrist or a speeding ticket at worst, and the other being sent to jail and even beaten or killed? Or is your version of fair when 2 people walk into a police station that they get the same respect or the same charge for the same crime, 2 joints worth of weed? Is it fair that one man was given the opportunity to redeem himself, that one is seen as a young, white, and full of potential? An excellent candidate for restorative justice, don't you think? And the other person gets a permanent label on their record that makes it almost impossible for them to make it past the label. How fair-skinned is the U.S. version of fair? I have another one. What is luxury? A nice car, a restaurant meal, a beach vacation? All of those things are luxuries, right? You wouldn't consider getting pulled over for a speeding ticket and not going to jail to be a luxury. Or receiving a punishment that fits the crime, that's not a luxury either, is it? Or surviving an interaction with law enforcement, that shouldn't be a luxury, right?
Fair is fair. Liberty and justice for all. But who was that designed for? When the Constitution was written, we were slaves. So who is the all exactly? And have they clarified if black people are actually included yet? Tell me, are we included yet? As a black man living in the U.S., it feels like a privilege if you're not in jail. Freedom is a luxury. Fairness is a luxury.
First of all, I'm humbled to be here. It was a great experience to be at the NACRJ. And when the DA, Michael Dougherty, will be singing the piece of my story.
I didn't know what led me there. It was 2 a.m., and I was in my car, parked across from the prison. I didn't know I was driving to the prison until I actually arrived. And I didn't know I was praying until I finally heard my own words repeating over and over, "Stay solid, stay solid." I've been out of prison for over 5 years, but it is easy to go back there in so many ways. I am not going back. But sometimes on the street, I'll walk by somebody and smell jail, and it's like I'm right back inside and I have to pull myself together. Most people who spent any time in prison, we never know when we fall asleep if our dreams will take us back. We wake up screaming and open our eyes, hoping to see that the nightmare is over. We were spat out from the belly of the beast back into the streets. But that beast is now inside our belly, and we do the best we can because you never know what the day will bring. I know I never wanted to be a gang member. I never wanted to be associated with drug dealing. I never looked up to that shit, but I ended up putting my energy into the wrong person. In 2003, I was just out of high school, working full-time at a computer store, going to college in computer science, when I got a call from this guy who I'd met in my early days. We met in commissary, bagging groceries, when our parents were in the military, and we latched on to each other. We would go to parties together back in high school, and there'd be times that he'd get into fights, and I'd fight his fights. I'd literally fight his fights. And not because I thought he was going to get beat up, but because I wanted to show him that you got a brother that's with you. You know what I'm saying? I guess I always wanted to be like my dad. My dad is intense. At the same time, he'd give everything to you. He was loyal and strong. He fought with his brothers, for his brothers, in the Army. When my old friend called, I hadn't seen him for years. But when he showed up, we were right back with each other. Those were some of the best times in my life. We were inseparable. Even dated women that were friends. And when he wanted some help with his business, I was all about it. I had the computer and accounting skills to make the money from the drugs he was selling hide. I wasn't planning on getting into his drug trafficking, but I turned my world from something legit to a throw-off from my friend, and, well, for the love of money. You hear all the time about how addictive drugs are, but we don't talk about how addictive selling drugs is. In 2004, I went from ashy to classy. From counting my pennies to having rolls of hundreds in my pockets. From driving a 1988 Toyota Camry to Cadillacs and Envoys. From being treated by the world like a nobody to a somebody. And I'm just coming out of high school, and there's no longer a teacher or a coach asking good questions about what I'm up to. Because they know you. They know you want to build something gracious. Do you want drugs to be involved? Hell no. I didn't want no drugs to be involved because I knew it was harming people, you know? But the money, it's just like drugs. It's an addiction. And because I wasn't selling the drugs myself, I could put it behind me like, okay, I'm not going to worry about the people harming themselves. I'm going to make sure that me and him put our money in the right places where we're able to invest in the community. So one morning he calls and tells me that he's getting a little paranoid about the people he's meeting at the Walgreens parking lot. He thinks they're going to rob him. He says, "Can you cover for me?" I've been covering him since we were kids. His fights are my fights. I was arrested. They interrogated me trying to get information on him. I refused to say anything, and for that lack of information, they pretty much gave me the hammer. I thought by keeping silent, I was saving his life. I saved him and a number of people we worked with from going to prison. I took everything they were trying to charge on everybody. I just took all those cases and put them on me, and all on the notion that if he was in that spot, he would do the same thing. It was only later I discovered he set me up. The case was all on him, but he knew if I showed up instead of him at the Walgreens parking lot, they'd put it all on me. I was not charged as the accountant on a state drug case, but labeled a mastermind drug trafficker and sent to federal custody. And the fact is, I was guilty of hiding a major drug scheme. I had misplaced my loyalty and courage on the wrong person for the wrong ends. And I'd been lured into denial by money and the desire for a true brother. I had hurt people by selling drugs to my community. Of that, I was guilty. But why is it that I could be sent away for a decade on a nonviolent drug charge, and yet the DA and prosecutors who sent me into that prison of violence and assault are presumed innocent? Because they know what is going to happen to you in there. They know what is going to happen. I knew nothing about surviving those environments or no damn prison politics. I didn't know shit about that shit. But I did know if you come at...
I ain't know.
But I did know if you come attack me, if you put me into the center of brutality and try to assault me, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. Not because I wanted to show off. I wasn't into violence for violence. I'm a basketball player, a college computer student. I'm just a man-to-man fighter. You know what I'm saying? But they sent me into that evil place, and it is crazy in there. 1 minute, there's a group of men standing in a circle, and then, damn, that motherfucker got his eye took out. You know what I'm saying? He got hit with a lock and a sock. What the fuck is going on here? I don't want my head slammed into a concrete desk. I don't want to be raped. I don't want to kill anybody, but I don't want to be killed. Every chance I got, I was calling my mom, crying, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I was on my own in the feds, no protection. So a few men tried to number me up, and they got me in the cell. I looked out at all of them. I said, someone's about to get hurt. Somebody's about to get fucked up. But you know, one of them ran in on me. And by the time he ran, I did what I needed to do to survive. And if a corrections officer had not seen enough of what happened and been willing to speak up for me and say it was self-defense, I would be in prison right now for attempted murder. And even though I was determined not guilty, the criminal justice system still took my innocence away because they put me in a position where to survive, I had to stab a man in the neck. And his blood was just pouring out of his body all over me. And it should be all over the judge, DA, and prosecutors, them too. And that is not the worst of it. That is not the worst. Do you know how much this system actually kills white, black, Mexican people? Like kills them mentally? You know, by being good kids, whatever, not really that much training, and they get sent to those evil environments on one mistake. And by sending them to prison, they've already killed someone. But the DAs, prosecutors, judges don't get charged for that. And it's not just the inmates. What do you think happens to the corrections officers? At one point, it was their first time seeing it, their first stabbing, their first rape. You watch the new ones, the green ones, how the longer they are there, the farther away they are from themselves. They become lost too. We're all locked up in the belly of the beast. And when you leave the beast, it's inside your belly too. And they point at you and judge you and say, look, that pit bull's dangerous. He bites. Look at his prison file. He's a monster. And they take no responsibility for throwing you into that pit. No responsibility.
Well, I take responsibility for myself and what I have to do to not lose myself or give them an excuse to send me back. I pray for me and everyone in that prison. Stay solid. Stay solid. Because we are not their beast. We are unknown to them in mental capacity and the ability to adapt. Deep inside us, we are sharp business owners, multitaskers, entrepreneurs, loyal brothers, strong fathers. Oh yeah, happy Father's Day too. It is true, the beast we've been fed, it's in our belly. and it's hard to control. But with the necessary amount of guidance, power, love, true spirit will emerge beyond the teeth. And that spirit is not impulsive, it is not reactive. It's our true purpose in broken pieces put together by experience and get stronger by the day of new learning. Stay solid, stay solid. Praying for you, man.
My name is Daniel Guillory, and my story somewhat culminates all of these, and this is it. The last time I went to jail, I had been in there for about 18 months because I was unable to bond out because of a special offenders hold and parole hold. At any rate, when I killed those, I called my mom and I said, "Hey, Mom, I'm able to bond out now after 18 months. I've been running Bible studies and my life has changed now. I'm ready to get out if you see fit to come and get me." So she said, "Well, let me talk to my sisters and we'll see if we can come up with the money." So she went and talked to them, and my sister said, "No, Mom, we're not in this. We know him. He's up to the same old stuff. He's going to get out and go straight back to the dope." So my mom believed in me, and she said, "Well, I'm going to go and get a load, and I'm going to come and get you." So after my mom bailed me out, I went to pick my car up. My car had been impounded while I was in jail. After they arrested me, they searched my car up and down with a fine-tooth comb. They tore it up. I mean, they tore it up. I had a nice Cadillac. They pulled everything out of it that they could, but they found no significant amount of drugs. They thought they had the kingpin. So I drove my car home. As I was slowly putting it back together, I found a pipe and a big rock under my front seat in clear sight. And I'm thinking, are they setting me up? I mean, they searched my car up and down, even looked in my spare tire, and the dope was right there in plain sight. I picked up the rock and the pipe, put it in my pocket. I said, "No, I'm not gonna do it." I knew I should have thrown it away, but I didn't. I held on to it and contemplated on it all day. Later on that day, I finally succumbed. I broke a piece off it out. I threw it in that pipe. Man, I'm telling you, after being clean 18 months, I hit that thing, and Scotty beamed me up, boy. Yeah. I mean, he beamed me up. And soon as I hit that, before I let the full amount of smoke out, there's my mom coming home from work. And she looked at me with despair and hurt and pain in her eyes. And I didn't know what to do. I said, "Mom, I bet if you'd have known this, you'd have left my ass in there." And she looked at me with that pain and hurt in her eyes, and she said, "No, baby, I still would have came and got you." You know, I still get tears in my eyes when I recall those words. "No, baby, I still would have came and got you." Oh my God, you could have kicked me in the face or cussed me out, but that kind of blatant, unconditional love, that was the turning point in my life. It made you vulnerable, butt naked. There's no defense to that kind of grace. You get what you deserve, you build bigger walls, and you can defend that. "Oh, you're a liar, you're a failure, you're an addict, you're never gonna change." Is that all you got? Come on with more. But that kind of grace and love, that is the moment that caused my thinking to change and brought about a new perspective on myself in life, and that's where I turned away from drugs. That's the thing that we got to convey to society. When a person is broken down, messed up, when they least deserve it, that's precisely when they need it the most. And that kind of grace, that grace thing, that's what's going to give people a 360-degree turn and cause them to look at themselves and life in a different way. The key is helping people remember their importance, understanding their magnificence, and then investing, like these people are doing, to help them reach their full potential, and not necessarily punishing them all the time. But the criminal justice system takes all of our shortcomings and faults, and it magnifies them. That's all they see. They take the smallest part of us, and they make it the biggest part of our existence, when all this good stuff is lying inside of us right there dormant. It's just waiting to grow, but it's not put in the right environment. Instead, they send us down the dark tunnel to a place of violence at every intersection, a gladiator school where you learn how to place magazines in your waist in case someone tries to sneak up on you and stick you. A place where you come completely out of your trousers when you're sitting down on the toilet because people will attack you at your most vulnerable point. And when you act out on this violence, they send you further down the hole where there are no people, just an overflowing toilet, sadness, despair, and isolation at every intersection. If you drop an oak tree seed into a concrete world, there's life inside of that seed. It's vibrant, but it's not growing. It's just there dormant. But if you take this very same seed and you drop it in a decent place where there's nutrients, sun, earth, and water, this very same seed, you don't even have to plant it, just put it somewhere where it could possibly grow. And this thing will branch out and start growing and produce fruit. The fact is, all of us up here are human beings who have committed crimes, but that is not our truth. We're not ontologically criminals. That is not our essence. And instead of helping us to return to the full truths of who we are, the criminal justice system takes away our names and gives us DOC numbers. They take away our dignity and our freedom and our happiness. And most of all, they take the potential away from us from being our very best selves. And how can it change as long as the justice system continues to lie about what it is doing to us? They give us a piece of paper that says, the state of Colorado is sentencing this defendant to incarceration for 10 years of rehabilitation and is fitted towards that sentence. Rehabilitation, my ass. There is no rehabilitation. When you send us to the Department of Corrections, you're essentially making us more incorrect. There's not a sliver of corrections in that place, not a sliver. Most of us on this board are fairly new to this whole idea of restorative justice, but we know that telling the truth and taking responsibility for our crimes and the pain that we have caused is a big part of it. And we have reflected as a group in our writings and as individuals on that harm. But we are also asking the criminal justice system itself to sit in the circle with us and to hear ways that we have been harmed. Because the criminal justice system itself, has been criminal in the name of justice. On behalf of the Motus writers whose stories you have heard, I would like to thank the readers who stood in our shoes momentarily and read our stories. Thank you. And for all of you for including us at your table and listening. I hope you will stay with us to discuss solutions that could lead to radical change, opportunities for healing, in which our humanity is recognized, and truth and justice renewed.